So, first blue card is Akal Pakal, first among equals. 3 mana for a 1/5. At the beginning of each player's end step, if an artifact enters the battlefield under your control this turn, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Did we see any flash artifacts? Not really. But we did see ways to generate artifacts. Like there was the guy who makes the 3/3, who for 5 mana makes 1/1s. So there are ways to trigger this in white. I haven't seen any of the other blue cards. This seems like a good value engine as long as you can trigger it. You can probably trigger it on your own turn quite easily. It's triggering on your opponent's turn. But I mean, it's a 1/5. It's not easy to remove. It's a good blocker. It doesn't do it. It doesn't do any damage. But I mean, if you're just looking for like a value engine, because this is at the beginning of each player's end step. So you can do it on your turn, at the end of your turn and the end of your opponent's turn. And you can just keep putting a card in your hand and another card into your graveyard. So this is probably really good. But yeah, it's got to be good in limited, right? It's just a value engine. And I'm assuming this set is very artifact themed, because we've seen a lot of artifacts in white. So, and this guy's the first blue card, and he does stuff with artifacts. So, I mean, on your turn, you can probably play an artifact guaranteed. On your opponent's turn, there are ways to make artifacts, and if you even get what, like 2 or 3 triggers out of this guy, it's just kind of gross. It depends. Like, blue card. The thing is, blue's never been a particular. Blue's not. Sorry, had a stroke. Blue's not a particularly strong color in itself. It's not gonna, carry. But this guy allows you to dig for the cards that are actually gonna carry you. So I think, and it's not just a spell that does it. It's like a creature that can block because it's a 1/5. So I think this is good. I think this is the kind of blue card you want in your limited deck. Ancestral Reminiscence. 4 mana, draw 3 cards, discard a card. Sure. It's there have been lots of cards like this. It's, it's fine. Yeah. Mid being... Why do I not know the set name? What were the last couple of sets? It was not going to be the last couple of sets. Blue hasn't been good for a while. Wait, Haughty Djinn. What set was Haughty Djinn in? I don't know. But, yeah. I think this card is good. Astral Reminiscence. It's a draw card. It draws cards. It's fine. Sorcery Speed, draw cards, discard cards. Midnight Hunt. Oh! Yeah. I did like the Decay Zombies. Yeah, there was some very good blue cards, actually. Yeah, no, there were some very good blue cards. Yeah, you are correct. Right. Brackish Blunder. 2 mana for an instant, return target creature to its owner's hand. If it was tapped, create a map token. It's good. It's a nice bounce spell. Instant speed, 2 mana. Go away. If it's an attacking creature, you get a little bit of extra value out of it. I think this is fine. This is a card you want to be running a couple, like 3 copies of, probably. Yeah, this is good. This is good. Braided Net. 3 mana for an artifact. It enters the battlefield with 3 net counters on it. Remove a net counter from Braided Net. Tap another target non-land permanent. Its activated abilities can't be activated for as long as it remains tapped. Pretty good. And you can craft with... So it's like a 3-turn artifact tapper. Or an artifact that taps things down. You can craft it into Braided Quipu. What the... Quipper? I don't know. which is 4 mana, tap, draw a card for each artifact you control, then put it into its owner's library third from the top. This is too slow for limited, right? Like, the braided net is fine, because you can tap things before they attack you. But then when it's out of net counters, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't tap them permanently. It just taps them for a turn. And they can't do anything. But if you're using it defensively, which you probably are, it only taps them for that turn. And then you craft it and turn it into this, which doesn't do anything until you tap 4 mana and it to draw a card for each artifact you control. And then it goes third from the top as this again. So you have to wait 3 turns before I don't like this. This card's... No. No. I don't think this card's good. Not in limited. It's too slow. Too slow in limited. Just too slow. Chart a course. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. Sure. It's fine. I mean, 2 mana, draw 2 is pretty good. You have to attack, and blue creatures... like... You're probably not playing this on turn 2 because I haven't seen a blue 1-drop yet, and also blue 1-drops are usually crap. I mean, blue creatures are generally not particularly good, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's I'll be quiet. There's the blue 1-drop. Okay. 1 mana for a 1/2 with flash. When in battlefield, target creature and opponent control gets -2, -0 until end of turn. There's a number of these type of creatures. The upside to it is it's a 1 mana blue card, so that you can play it and then attack and chart a course, I guess. That's the only thing I'm seeing right now. It's fine. It's a 1 mana 1/2. It's not particularly exciting, and I don't think... I mean, your opponent's not going to play around it. So, I mean, it's a -2, -0, and an extra blocker when they attack. So, maybe it's really good, but... Confounding Riddle. 3 mana to choose 1. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into hand, the rest in your graveyard. Or counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. This is probably okay for a counter spell. Counterspells in limited usually suck because you can't have enough of them. In standard, you can kind of have enough that you can guarantee that you can probably counter everything from turn like 2 or 3. But in limited, you can't. So you can't just build around counterspells. It just doesn't work. But this is a look for an answer or a counterspell. So I think this is okay. I'm not excited about it. Like, I'm not first picking this card. But I know that by not doing that, there is a game that I'm going to run into this card, and it's going to be so good, and I'm going to be upset about it. Council of Echoes. A 6 mana 4/4 flyer. I mean, it's no 2 mana 4/4 flyer in white, but sure. Descend 4. So you have to have 4 cards in your graveyard. If there are 4 or more permanent cards. Yeah, you have to have 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard. When Council of Echoes enters the battlefield, if there are 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, return up to 1 target non-land permanent other than Council of Echoes to its owner's hand. It's a 4/4 flyer. I mean, you probably take it just because it's a 4/4 flyer. And it's also got value attached to it, because you're returning something from the graveyard to your hand. So this is probably a fine card. Like, it's probably good, actually. I mean, it is 6 mana, but it's a 4/4 flyer, which can end games. And it gets you something back from the graveyard, which you might have needed, or you could just play onto the field to protect yourself. Yeah, I think this is good. It's not great. It's fine. Deep-Root Pilgrim. 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever 1 or more non-token merfolk you control become tapped, create a 1/1 blue merfolk creature token with hexproof. How many merfolk have we seen so far? 0. This is good depending on the number of merfolk you have. Like, this sort of card is one of the ones where I'm just like, I don't know, how good are merfolk? I haven't seen any. So I don't know. Are they like a massive core component to blue? I mean, I'm like 5-10 cards in and I haven't seen one yet, so I don't know. If they're really good, then this is an amazing card, because first of all, they have hexproof, which means they can't be targeted, and secondly, it just means every time you play a merfolk, you get an extra merfolk, which is great if there's merfolk synergy. But I haven't seen any merfolk, so I don't know. I'll give it a rating of merfolk, because I don't know how good merfolk are. Didact Echo. 5 mana for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. And Descend 4 has flying as long as there are 4 or more permanent cards in your graveyard. But it's 5 mana for a 3/2 flyer? A 3/2 maybe flyer? I mean, it does draw a card. Drawing a card's nice. I don't know. This doesn't seem great. It's too expensive, I think. Yeah. There's like... There's going to be like 4/4 flyers a turn after this thing. So it's just not going to do anything. And it only has flying if you meet a requirement. I don't think this card is good. Eaten by Piranhas. So it's 2 mana, flash, enchantment. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a black skeleton creature with base power and toughness 1/1. This is good. This is a good removal. It's a good white removal. I like this. Yeah. You just play this and turn your opponent's scary thing into a 1/1 black skeleton. Yeah, this is good. I mean, they can technically still attack with it, and if you kill it and it goes to the graveyard and they have a way to get it back, it's still bad. But, you know. The Enigma Jewel. Okay. 1 mana. Enters the battlefield tapped. Tap it, add 2 colorless, spend this mana only to activate abilities. Right. Spend 9 and craft with 4 non-land permanents with activated... This is already... This is undoable in Limited. To get Locus of Enlightenment. Locus of Enlightenment has each activated abilities of the exile cards used to craft it. You may activate each of those abilities only once each turn. When you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, copy it. I mean, it's cool, but there's no way... I'm gonna have to disappear again, chat. I'm sorry. I will be right back. Sorry about that, chat. There was something going on outside. Someone making a bunch of racket. I had to go see what it was. Right. Anyway, back to the Enigma Duel. This is crap. There is no way you're pulling this off in Limited. And even if you do, the payoff is not good enough. Like, it's just not happening. I mean, you can technically tap it for itself. So it costs 7 mana. But 7 mana and exile 4 or more non-land permanents with activated abilities. I mean, you're essentially... The ideal way to make this work is on 7, turn 7, when you have this out and 7 mana, you activate it and exile 4 non-land permanents with activated abilities from your graveyard, transform this into the Locus of Enlightenment, and then you can activate, but it doesn't say, but you still have to pay the cost for the activated ability, so even then it doesn't do anything. Right? You may activate each of those abilities only once each turn. Has each activated abilities of the exile card used to craft it. Yeah, you still have to pay for it. It doesn't say you get to activate them without paying their mana cost. This is undoable in Limited. And even if you do it, it's almost definitely not worth it. The Ever-Flowing Well. 3 mana. When the Ever-Flowing Well enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. Okay. 3 mana, draw 2. That's fine. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, transform the Ever-Flowing Well into the Myriad Pools. Okay. 2 mana. Whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by the Myriad Pools, up to 1 other target permanent you control becomes a copy of that spell until end of turn. So, whenever you play something, one of whenever you cast so it's not on lands, so you can turn lands into things. Whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produce up to 1 other target permanent you control, so you can do lands, becomes a copy of that spell until end of turn. Is that good? God, I don't know. I don't think so. Not in Limited. So, let's say you haven't... Because it's permanent cards. So let's say you don't have any permanents in your graveyard when this comes down. And let's say you put 2 permanent cards into your graveyard when you mill 2. So you still need to get 6 permanent cards in your graveyard to transform this into the Myriad Pools. And then you need to cast permanent spells to make copies of permanents for 1 turn. This is crap. Right? Compared to the white one that we saw that was absolutely game-breaking, this is just crap. It's just so bad and limited. Like, yeah, it's just trash and limited. Yeah, this is just bad. This is not good. I don't think I ever picked this card. No, I don't think this is good. Frilled Cave Worm, 4 mana for a 2/5. With Descend 4, it gets +2/+0 as long as there are 4 more permanent cards in your graveyard. So Descend looks like it's the blue mechanic. So it's a 4 mana 4/5 as long as there are 4 more permanent cards in your graveyard. That's actually pretty good. I say this isn't a bad beta. Yeah, this is probably good. Like, it's not, you know, outstanding, but it's a 4 mana if you have Descend triggered 4/5. If you don't, it's still a 2/5, which is a good blocker. I think this is probably good. I think I think even at 5 mana, I mean a 5 mana 4/5 isn't nothing to sniff at. I think at 4 mana this card is good. I think this card is good, yeah. Hermitic Nautilus. It's a 2 mana 1/4 with vigilance that can make itself a 4/1 until end of turn. I actually like this. Because it has vigilance. So you swing, turn it into a 4/1, crack your opponent in the mouth for 4, and then when they swing back, it's a 1/4. This is a good card. And it, like, if they attack with something big and scary, and you could trade into it, you can just flip it and trade up. I think this card is good. I think for blue cards, this card is nice. I like this card. I think this card's good. Hurl into History. 5 mana for an instant. Counter target artifact or creature spell, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. Exile a card from the top of your library until you exile an online card with that mana value or less. Cast it without paying its mana cost, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. This is a 5 mana counter spell. Unplayable? I just don't see you saving a 5 mana. Like, counter spells are at their best when they're cheap. This is the complete opposite. This is one of the most expensive counter spells I have seen in recent memories. Even Rewind costs 4, and it's essentially free because you pay the 4 and then untap 4 lands. But this is more expensive than Rewind. Nah, this is bad. This is bad. I don't like Hurl into History either. This is bad. Blue's got some real rough cards in this set. Inverted Iceberg. Okay. 2 mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, mill a card, then draw a card. Fine. And craft with an artifact for 6 into Iceberg Titan. A 6/6. Whenever it attacks, you may tap or untap target artifact or creature. I think this is okay. Like, I'm not thrilled, but honestly, like, it's more exciting than this. Like, this for the Descend 8 is worse than Craft for an artifact for 6. Because first of all, this you have more control over. Is there an artifact somewhere? And do you have 6 mana to make a 6/6? I like this card. I think this card is good. I think maybe not good, but certainly playable and blue. I think this card is good. Or good enough. Kite Sail Larcenist. 3 mana for a 2/3 with flying and ward 1. Okay, good card already, I think. Yeah, it's a good card. When it enters the battlefield, for each player, choose up to 1 other target artifact or creature that players controls. For as long as Kite Sail Larcenist remains on the battlefield, the chosen permanent becomes treasure artifacts. With sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and loses all other abilities. This is great. This is a 3 mana 2/3 flyer that's removal. I like this card. This card's outstanding, I think. This has got to be one of the best blue cards we've seen. By like a wide margin, this is one of the best blue cards we've seen. I mean, you're giving your opponent 1 extra mana, but you get rid of their scary thing and you play a 2/3 flyer that has wards, so it's a pain in the ass to remove. This card's great. Yeah. No, I like this card. This card is very good and limited. It's gotta be. Yeah, this is a very good card. Lodestone Needle. 2 mana, flash. When it enters the battlefield, tap up to 1 target artifact or creature and put 2 stun counters on it. And then the turn after, if you have an artifact, you can change it to a Guidestone Compass. 1 tap, target creature you control explores. Activate only as a sorcery. This is okay, actually. I actually think this is pretty good. Because, again, it's one of those, like, 2 mana to tap, especially, like, it's got flash, so it's just an instant. 2 mana to tap an opponent's creature and put 2 stun counters on them, so you don't have to deal with them for 3 turns. Or that turn after, and yeah, 3 turns. And then you craft it immediately into essentially a value engine. That's a good card. I'd play that. I'm much more likely to play this than that net. That net was crap compared to this, right? Yeah, this is good. This is a good card. Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel. A 2 mana, 2/1 with flying and flash. That's a scary combo. Whenever Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel deals combat damage to a player, put a chorus counter on it. Draw a card, then discard a card. Okay. If there are 4 or more chorus counters on Malcolm, you may cast the discarded card without paying its mana card. This card's great. This card's incredible. Like, turn 2, end of your opponent's turn, you play this guy. Unless they have immediate instant speed removal, you just crack them for 2 in the air, draw a card, discard a card, and your opponent must deal with it. Because if this thing gets to 4 counters, it's just an insane value engine. Where you just get extra cards every turn that you just cast. This is gross. This is nuts. This is absolutely a, like, weirdly, this is the blue bomb. And it's a 2 mana, 2/1. But I think this just is, right? This is really good. Yeah, this is really good. Marauding Brine Fang. A 7 mana, 6/7 with Ward 3 and Island Cycling. You probably just play this. It's got Island Cycling. Like, you have at least one of these in your deck. It's a big dude. If you draw this on turn 7, it's a 6/7 with Ward 3 and your opponent has to do something about it. If you draw it early, it's an island. It's fine. It's a great card. I like these cyclers. I like them in every set they're in. And I like them especially when they're big things. Like big creatures. I think if you put like cycling on like an early game creature, I mean, it makes it interesting because you have to decide what you want to do. But I prefer it when they just put it on a massive creature, because then you just, like, if it's early game and you don't need the creature, you just cycle it. If it's a late game and you don't need the cycling, you just massive bomb. Or not a bomb, but, you know, massive creature. This is great. This I like. Merfolk Cave Diver. 3 mana for a 2/4. Whenever a creature you control explores, Merfolk Cave Diver gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. I think this is our first Merfolk. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. This is our first Merfolk. Blue. There better be like a 2-color, like blue-green, I guess, would be the most common blue Merfolk colors. There must be just a bunch of like multicolored / green Merfolks, right? Or else that Merfolk enchantment is just garbage. But as for this, I mean, we haven't seen a massive amount of exploring blue so far. But it's nice to have at least one of these cards in a limited deck, because they can't be blocked this turn. Just, you know, 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage. Like, every turn you get it off, it's good. Because your opponent just can't do anything about it. It's just 3 unstoppable damage. Cards like this are always good in limited, because they can just end a game. So, this is good. I think this is a good card. Oaken Siren. 2 mana for a 1/2 with flying and vigilance. It's a flyer. I'll probably take it. Add 1, spend this mana, only cast an artifact spell or activate an ability of an artifact source. There's been a couple of these like 1 mana or 2 mana blue creatures that are defensively statted that, you know, tap to add 1 mana, but you can only spend it on instant or sorcery spells. And they're always, you know, fine. They're not great. This is, again, another one that's fine. I mean, it's working on artifact spells, and there's a lot of artifacts in this set. And there's like even artifact creatures. So I think this is better. And it's got flying, so you can even be aggressive with it if you want to. So I think this is actually better than it looks. But it's not, you know, it's not deck defining or anything. It's just fine. I can't say that name. Deepest Epoch. Let's go with Deepest Epoch. 4 mana. For a flying 4/3. This card is already gross. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery scroll from your hand, it gains rebound. Exile it as it resolves at the beginning of your next upkeep. You may cast it from exile without paying its mana cost. This is insane. This is insane. This is gross. When it dies, return to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control with 3 time counters on it. Oh god, it's got suspend. Add tap 1, remove a time count. Oh no, it doesn't have suspend. It's just using time counters. Temple, transform, activate only if there's no time counters on it and only as a sorcery. So this comes back every 3 turns. 4 turns. Because so it's 4 turns. So you can only kill this thing for 4 turns unless you exile it. And I don't think this is as good as the white one. But it is a 4/3 flyer for 4. I think this is probably... Is it... Again, I think we need to have a look at red/black and see what kind of burn / you know, black removal there is to see how good this is. But even if you only get... Like, if you get 1 or 2 casts off this thing with the rebound, it's... You're probably winning the game, right? Like, to be fair, what was... The only spell we've really seen... I don't think you care about Hurl into History, because you can't really recast it. But, there was... This one. Brackish Blunder. You bounce a creature if it's tapped, create a map token, and then next turn on your upkeep, you just bounce something else. This card this card is insane. Again, I think all of these gods are going to be absolutely insane, but this card is, I mean, it's a 4/3 flyer, which is already really good, and then its ability is insane, and it's the easiest one to return because all it takes is 3 turns. The easiest one we've seen so far. This is a good card. I'm assuming all of these gods are going to be 5 out of 5. You first pick them if you see them. The only card that's been that good so far, as well as the 2 gods, has been that white artifact creating thing that becomes a land. That's the only thing so far that I've seen that is as good as these gods. But the gods are all absolute 5-star gross. Right. Orzka Puzzle Door. 1 mana for an artifact that you can sacrifice. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put those cards into your hand and the others into your graveyard. Or put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Now, usually, I would say this sucks. Because this is a 1 mana sorcery spell. But, with the amount of... what's it? Descend? What's the thing called? Descend, yes. With the amount of Descend in blue and the amount of artifact forging things in just, from what I can tell, most of the colors, don't forget that this is, while this is pay 1 mana, sacrifice it, it is now, you are now at Descend 1, and if you want to forge with an artifact, you can exile this from your graveyard. I think this card is actually good. Like, surprisingly good. So yeah, I like this card. I actually like it more than if it was just a sorcery. Out of Air. 4 mana. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a creature spell. Counter target spell. This is really good. Because the main thing you're going to want to target to remove is creature spells. And this... So this is a 2 mana counter spell. For all of your primary threats. This is really good. This has to be really good. Like, as far as counter spells go, because again, counter spells are not good in limited usually, this is really good. Because it's countering creatures, which is what you care about for 2. So I think this is just good. Pirate Hat, 2 mana for an artifact. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. It equips to pirates for 1 and normal creatures for 2. It's okay. Yeah, I think I like this card. Again, you probably want pirates to make it worthwhile, but I think this card's fine. It's a very... Yeah. Also, you get to wear a swag pirate hat. Relics Roar. 1 mana until end turn target artifact. There's a bunch of these cards. The last set had Water Walking, which turned something into a 4/4. I don't care for things like this. I never pick them. I don't think they're very good. Maybe in 1 every 20 games you get blown out by this card, but it's not really worth paying any attention to. River Herald Scout. I remember this card. This is a reprint, right? I think so. When it enters the battlefield, it explores. Yeah, it's a 2 mana 1/2 that explores. And it's a merfolk. And merfolk did a lot of exploring and that sort of stuff. And they just like other merfolk. This is a good card. This is a card that you're just happy to run. And if you have Murloc synergies or Explore synergies, it only gets better. Because it's a 2 mana 3/2. Or 2 mana 2/3 if you don't hit anything. Or a 2 mana put a land into your hand. This is fine. This is a good card. This you definitely pick in Limited. 100%. Sage of Days. 3 mana. When Sage of Days enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards back on top of your library. Put the rest into your graveyard. I mean... It's a 3 mana 3/2. So... I guess we take that in blue. The ability's fine. Again, with Descend, this is probably better. So I'd say this is certainly playable. You probably play maybe 1 or 2 of these in a deck. Normally, if you're running blue. I think this is fine. Self-Reflection. 6 mana. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, and you can flashback it for 4. It's very expensive. 6 mana to create a token that's a copy. It's very expensive. I don't know. I think it's too pricey at 6. The flashback for 4 is nice. Maybe you just put it in your graveyard and play it for 4 instead. And bin the first half because you don't care. Maybe. I'm going to give this card a... Sure. I wouldn't pick it, not over most of the things I've seen, but maybe it's fine. Again, this is the thing. These create a token copy of a creature. You have to have a creature you want to copy, which means you're taking, if they both come up in the same pack, you're taking the creature you want to copy because this is useless without the creature you want to copy. And there's only so many creatures in here, especially for 6. Shipwrecked Sentry. 2 mana, 3/3 with Defender, and as long as you control it, as long as an artifact enters the battlefield under your control this turn, can attack as though it didn't have Defender. This is good. 2 mana, 3/3. If you're playing blue, you're probably playing slower. You're probably not playing an aggressive deck. So having a 2 mana, 3/3, just hold the ground is nice. And then if you're making artifacts, which there's a lot of artifacts in this set, or just playing artifacts, which there's a lot of in this set, this guy just is a 3/3 beater, which is probably outstats things up to 3 costs. I mean, it'll probably even trade with 4 costs. There was a 4. I mean, White had a 5 mana 4/3. It did pump everything on the field, but there are certainly cards this trades up into at 2 mana. So this is a good card. I think this is what you want when you play blue, sort of defensive things. Sinuous Benthesaur. Is that not just a plesiosaur? Looks like one to me. Right. 6 mana for a 4/4. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of caves. No, this is not a good card. I'm assuming you don't get enough caves. All the cave cards I'm going to say are not good, because you can't guarantee the caves. And this is a 6 mana 4/4. This is not good. Song of Stupefaction. 2 mana for an enchantment that can enchant a creature or vehicle. When it enters the battlefield, you mill 2 cards. Fathomless Descent. So this is an interesting idea. So I did see the Fathomless Descent thing, and I think I saw it specifically on this card, which is why I already have thoughts on this. Now, this is a card that has been printed before. A 2 mana -X -0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. And that card wasn't particularly good in Limited. It was fine, but it wasn't great. This is only permanent cards. So if you play this and mill 2 spells off the top of your library, this does absolutely fucking nothing. Which means this is worse than the card I mentioned before. And the card I mentioned before wasn't good in Limited. At least I don't think so. Which means this is even worse than not good. So this card sucks. I mean, there is a lot more ways to put cards in the graveyard in this set, so maybe it's fine. But I think by itself, this card sucks. Spyglass Siren. A 1 mana 1/1 flyer. Give it to me. That's what I want. 1 mana 1/1 flyers. I'm all about them. When it enters the battlefield, create a map token. It's a good card. I mean, it's not outstanding, but it's a 1 mana 1/1 that creates value. I love it. I'm all about it. Let's go. Staunch Crewmate. 2 mana for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact or pirate card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is a good deck. This is a good card. If you have a lot of pirates, there's already a lot of artifacts in this set. So if you have a lot of artifacts or a lot of pirates, this is great. I mean, it's a 2 mana 2/1, so it doesn't do well into 1/1s. But apart from that, it's fine. It probably, if your opponent plays a 2 mana 2/2 and you play a 2 mana 2/1 that lets you look at the top 4 cards and put one into your hand, you still trade with their 2/2 and you get an extra card into your hand. This is good. This is a good card. Very good card, I think. This is a very good card. Subterranean Schooner. I think I saw this one. I think this was something a couple of my friends were showing to me to try. I don't think I actually read it, but they were showing it to me to say that isn't this card really good. So let's read. It is 2 mana for a 3/4 vehicle. When Subterranean Schooner attacks, target creature that crewed it this turn explores. And it's crew 1. Yeah. Yeah, this is good, right? It's a 2-mana 3/4 that can be crewed by 1/1s, so everything can crew it. And when it does get crewed on the attack and you swing with it, the creature that crewed it gets bigger, or you get to reveal a land, get a land card. This is a good card. This has to be good. I don't know if it's good. Wait, is it good in limited though? Because generally vehicles suck in limited because they're too slow. But this is only 2 mana. 2 mana for a 3/4 that gets crewed by literally anything, pretty much. No, literally anything. I don't think we've seen any, like, 0-somethings yet. We saw the white 0/3, I suppose, which technically can't crew it, but everything else can pretty much crew it. And, I mean, even if your opponent kills it, it's an artifact for, you know, fusing with other artifacts or returning or doing whatever. I think this is a good card. I think this is a very rare good vehicle because it's a vehicle value engine that could be crewed for 1, right? And it's making one of your other creatures scary without ever having to put it in danger. Because, like, you say you crew this with a 1/1, it swings, the 1/1 becomes a 2/2. You crew it again, it becomes a 3/3. You crew it again, it becomes a 4/4. Like, as long as you're getting not lands off the top. And then even if they kill this, you still have the 4/4. I think this is a good card. I think this is good enough in limited. I think so. Tishana's Tidebender. 3 mana for a 3/2 with flash. Sure. When Tishana's Tidebender enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tasha's Tidebender remains on the battlefield. I don't know. This is like a tech card. Maybe it's great. Maybe it's terrible. I don't know. Oh, interestingly, the death of the gods and them becoming the lands is a triggered ability triggered by their death, correct? Which means you could kill one of the gods, play this, counter the ability that brings them back as transformed, and then they would just stay dead. And you have a 3/2. I mean, again, this is... It's one of those cards where it could be really good or it could just do nothing. So... Because it's not countering a spell. It's only activated or triggered abilities. So... It's... meh, I think. I don't think this is good. I think this is too narrow. Unlucky drop. Is there Evolving Wilds in this set? I haven't seen. I know Cavern of Souls is in this set. There's probably Evolving Wilds in this set. But I mean, I guess you could technically use it on an Evolving Wilds. Yeah. I mean, it does work on, I suppose it does say mana abilities can't be targeted, but things like Evolving Wilds aren't technically mana abilities, they are. So, yeah. Oh, but no. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is counted this way, the permanent... Oh, but you're sacrificing it, aren't you, as the payment cost? So, yeah. It is just they sacrifice a land, get nothing, and you get free 3/2 on their turn. Could be really good. But again, isn't that... that's still narrow, though, right? Like, is there an Evolving Wilds? Does my opponent play the Evolving Wilds after turn 3 so I can play this? Like, I don't I don't think this is good. I think it's... That isn't. Then I mean, even with it, I think it would still be too narrow. Right. In a set with Descend, no less. Yeah, I know. Unlucky drop. 4 mana, target artifact or creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. This was in the last set. It was 4 mana. It was really slow. It was not good. It wasn't called Unlucky Drop. It was called something else. But this was essentially the same card in the last set for 4 mana, and it was too slow. So I'm going to say this one's probably too slow as well. Maybe the set's a bit slower now, so maybe it's fine, but I don't think this card is good. Waterlogged Hulk. 1 mana for an artifact that lets you mill a card. I mean, in a set with Descend, not awful, and you can craft with an island, which again can be from your graveyard, turn it into Watertight Gondola, which is a 4/4 with Vigilance, Descend 8, can't be blocked as long as there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, and crew 1. This is a good card. It can't be blocked if you have Descend 8 active. So the only way your opponent stops it from just cracking them in the mouth is destroy every creature you have, because it's crew 1, or has to remove cards from your graveyard until you have less than 8. And then you can just not attack with it unless they do it on the attack. This card's good, right? Just play it turn 1. Start milling cards. Fill up your graveyard for the Descend 8. Turn 4, you flip it into an unblockable 4/4. Start cracking your opponent in the teeth. I'm fine with that. I'd play that card. And it's got Vigilance, so you can block with it if necessary. I think this is a great card. Yeah, I think I'd play that. I think I'd play that in Limited. Again, vehicles usually suck. But I think the fact that almost every vehicle we've seen has been crew 1 or has a way to crew itself makes them good. Because there's lots of ways to make 1/1s in this set. Well, in white at least. Well, no, because this one had the Merfolk thing where you could make 1/1 Merfolks by playing other Merfolks. So again, there is still ways to just pump out 1/1s with this set. Water Wind Scout. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, create a map token. It's fine. I mean, it is a flyer, so it's probably good actually, because if there's a way to make multiple map tokens, which I know there is in this set, you can use this as the target. So this can do the exploring to get bigger and bigger, and then just start smashing your opponent in the air. I think this card is good. Yeah. I think this card is good. I think any flyer in this set is going to be good with the map tokens, probably. And this comes with one. So I think this is good. It's a bit undercosted, but it is flying, so... Or a bit overcosted, but it is flying, so... I'll give it. Waylaying Pirates. 4 mana for a 3/3. When Waylaying Pirates enters the battlefield, if you control an artifact, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. I mean, we've already said in this set you probably control an artifact. Because there's a lot of artifacts. But is that good enough? So, for 4 mana, play a 3/3, tap something an opponent controls, artifact creature an opponent controls for this turn. Well, seeing as this doesn't have flash, it taps it, stuns it on your opponent's turn, ready to move the stun counter back to your turn, so then you can swing for the 3, I guess. And then they untap. Again, I think this is one of those... Oh, I have 1 copy because it was one of the last, like, couple of cards left, so I thought I'd pick it up sort of card. This is, you're not excited about having this card, but you just kind of do end up with one of them, probably. Zotic Glyph. 3 mana, enchanted artifact. Enchanted artifact is a golem creature with base power and toughness 5/4 in addition to its other types. When it is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, discover 3. So discover is you look at cards from the top of your library until you get a card with converted mana cost equal to the discover number or less, and then you can cast it without paying its mana cost or put it into your hand. So this is probably good. If you have a bunch, there's a bunch of ways to make map tokens. You make a map token into a 5/4, which your opponent has to deal with, and then if they blow up the map token, or this goes to the graveyard, and you get something else that costs either it costs 3 or less from your library, which I think makes this card good. I think normally I would really not be too fussed about, making an artifact into a 5/4 because I'd rather just have a creature. But I think this is cheap enough for a 5/4, and I don't know, because it has to be put into a graveyard from the battlefield, which means if you try and enchant something and your opponent just blows it up with removal, which they've been holding, this is a nothing. This is a big fat nothing burger. But all enchantments have that problem, and usually the enchantments are a little bit better in limited than they are in standard because people don't have quite as much or don't have anywhere near as much as interaction. So I still think this card is good. I think you pick this card if you see it. Yeah, I think you do.